Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of Black?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself.
Ooh.
Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Friday!
We need to have like a yearly update of our intro or something like that. Like we should now like go back and like take other
bits
and do like, you know, the 2023 intro version.
That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah. That way we don't have you screaming every time.
I know. Absolutely.
Actually, you could probably find another clip of you screaming and that would be fun.
I mean, I scream in literally every episode. I'll do it now.
Welcome, everybody, to Ben and Jake Write a Movie on Friday, January 20th, 2023.
Yeah. I wonder if there'll be people watching this in like 5 years' time. Be like,
there will be.
You know,
like people go back and listen to.
Yeah, like it was so awful. What happened to those guys?
Or no, but I'll tell you, when this movie gets made, people will come back and watch this and go, how did they make this? How did they come up with this?
How did they do it? How did they do it?
How did we do it? I don't fucking know how we did it. We still haven't done it yet.
We still haven't done it. We're trying to do it. still not there. Anyway.
So it's a good day. It's a good Friday. We've had a lot of really great meetings today and emails and things.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Is that sometimes we had a really good meeting about a movie we were producing earlier. It was fantastic. Yeah. Really excited about that, actually.
Yeah, Nathan Graham Davis, he's on here. Check out his podcast.
Yeah,
fantastic writer and fantastic collaborator.
Absolutely, he's really, really. Yes, I've really been enjoying that. So yeah, we're going to be trying to produce this movie, Ether. We are producing this movie. That's what's going to happen. We're just
we are moving shit.
That's good. Then just a bunch of emails back and forth between various producers on various projects with good things happening. So that's good.
So let's start our episode, as we like to do now, with a little shop talk.
Yeah.
You know, we should just call it shop talk.
You know what we do? You know what we need? We need a little shop talk thing.
Yeah. Like a little thing that I can like go bing and then shop talk.
Right.
That would be super fun. Let's make one of those for
totally. Maybe just a sign that I just hold up.
A scroll. They do. I can do like banners and
you
stuff.
Can do a little banner.
Like,
go on.
I can do this like.
Create us a quick banner, Ben. Go on. Shop talk.
Now the question is, do we want it to be like this? Wait, hold on.
What? Oh, interesting. That's like a ticker.
Or
I
can take the ticker off.
Yeah.
And it could just literally just be, you know, a banner. And then it's just like, hey, we're in shop talk.
Now we're in shop talk.
Shop talk time.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. We had a comment again from our wonderful Nick. Another question.
Totally. And I'll just add as well, just really quickly, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to wherever and whenever drop us a line.
And Nick will add it to our list.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that on YouTube. Any comment, we'll see it.
Twitter, Facebook.
I'm at Jake Thornton. Ben is at Ben_Lustig.
Yeah, I got
find us
and Lustig.
Find us on our Facebook page as well, Lustig Thornton. Wherever you want to get in touch with us, we'd be totally happy to answer.
I'm streaming on Twitch and LinkedIn right now, which, by the way, I think we'll probably also maybe add your Twitter as well. Now that I've upgraded, we can.
Can you do that? More. Can you add my Twitter? Oh, that would be really great. Yeah, because I think that'd be awesome. I might just very quickly go and because I know it automatically streams on your page. Let's have a little look. Sure enough, there we are. Let me just stream it.
There we are.
Now.
So today's topic in Shop Talk is the question that many new writers have, which is, what is the difference between having an agent, a manager, and a lawyer, Why do you need all three?
Great
do
question.
you need all three?
Great
What
question.
do they
At what
do?
point should
How
you
do
get what?
you pay them? When do you need what? All of these really great things. I mean, hell, we could do an entire hour long seminar.
Maybe we will at some point.
Maybe we will. But let's go to the basics.
Totally. So typically, a screenwriter starts off with a manager. A manager is able to probably has fewer clients than an agent, and is able to give you much more kind of career-oriented guidance and advice. We get notes from our manager on all of our screenplays. That's not something that we would ever request or expect from an agent, but we get it from our manager.
Right.
Their goal is really, and it's the goal of an agent too, but I would say like the long game. Like, how can we guide your career? Who do you need to be at? Who do you need to meet? They're going to be the ones typically kind of setting up meetings. Now, I think from a legal perspective, and I'm not sure about this, but there's an aspect of like, they're not allowed to procure you work, but I don't really know what that
means. So yes. So according to the WGA, originally, and I don't know where we're at today, but originally, agents were the only ones who were allowed to actually procure you as a writer work. Managers were not.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is they send you out on jobs or submit you specifically for work.
So specifically for open writing assignments.
Open writing assignments, staffing jobs,
right.
Things like that. Sending a screenplay out specifically for sale would also probably not be in there. What they were supposed to do, but sending you on a general that turns into work is totally fine.
Totally fine.
So there's a fine line, especially in the screenwriting world versus the TV world.
Yes.
And I think that the one thing that happened when so there was this thing that happened a couple of years back where we all fired our agents, and that was a writers guild thing. It was a proactive union. I don't know what you call it.
Union industrial action.
Action. Yes, it was an action whereby we had a dispute with our agents and it's all settled now. It's great. We came to a settle and we all were allowed to go back. But during that time, because agents were the ones who were allowed to procure us work, and certainly we didn't want the writers to not be working, the guild made an exception. And they said, managers, you are now allowed to do everything agents are allowed to do.
Yep. Funny
thing about that is that technically the guild has no authority over managers, because I don't even know that managers there's no manager contract with the union.
No, I don't think there is.
I don't think there is. Now, they could force managers to sign a contract because they, in theory, could tell us as union members that you can't be repped by a non-union.
I wonder if they ever will. It was one of the topics that came up after the agent action was settled, which was managers will be next, because managers will sometimes say, we've not had this experience, but it's I'm going to be a producer on this project. But we've heard of it, we know of it. But then there are some other things too. Anyway, we love a manager. It's great. Point being, what does a manager do? Manager is about really guiding your career. And this should be generally, I think, the first stop that someone, particularly in Hollywood, should be trying to get. Now, I don't think in the UK, managers are much of a thing.
And I actually don't know that you would have to go down that road if your goal was staffing.
Yes, that's interesting.
I actually think there's a very interesting dynamic between the difference in a TV career trajectory path and a feature film trajectory path. And if you are a writer who is going to apply to be a production assistant or a writer's assistant or somebody on a show, which as a young writer is a fantastic way to break in. I wish I had known about it. you don't need reps for that. There are boards, job boards for that.
Yeah.
And then once you're on a show, and you're working not as a staff writer, but as a writer's assistant, the hope is that the people that hired you are going to guide you and nurture you, and then you're going to write an episode. And at that point, you probably could get a TV agent and not need a manager, because your career trajectory is kind of, you don't need the same kind of guidance. You're on a path, and what you need at that point is an agent to submit you for new staffing jobs.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But
and again, I'm saying, like, in the UK, the last time I haven't lived in the UK for 15 years, but there was maybe a couple of managers for actors I knew about, but it really wasn't common. It really wasn't common at all. Generally in the UK, it's just agents. So if you're watching this in the UK and you're trying to break in, I think it's probably slightly different over there. I'm not sure how it is in other countries.
Right.
Genuinely don't know. But anyway,
there are writers. You know, it's interesting. So we have a very good friend who is a working writer. He does not have a manager. He only has an agent.
Correct. Yeah.
And
because he's got a point in his career, I think, where he just doesn't need a fucking manager.
Well, I don't know. I think he probably. It's an interesting thing.
Sorry, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I
actually know both versions.
Both versions, yes.
Perhaps smaller writer, and then one like an absolute A-list writer.
Yeah, he doesn't need
a manager,
And that is something that you have to consider. So let's just talk practicalities.
Yes.
An agent and a manager each take 10% of your work, your gross. Some managers used to charge 15%. I don't know of any that do right now. If your manager is trying to charge you 15%, I would say to them, that's not standard practice. And if you want to rep me, it should be 10%.
Agreed. I think there may be unscrupulous people out there who might try it.
And the commissions for an agent are set in stone by the guild. Managers are not under that same obligation, so they can charge whatever they want. In theory, they could charge you like an hourly rate,
90%.
I mean, they really could, but they don't. Generally speaking,
it's 10%.
And then you then normally would have an attorney as well. And that attorney does something completely different than what we've been talking about with agents and managers. Your attorney is the one person on your team that should have no other agenda other than getting you the best deal possible.
Yes.
Now you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. I pay my agent 10%. I pay my manager 10%. Shouldn't they be getting me the best deal possible? And the answer is yes.
Should be.
But they don't have a fiduciary legal obligation to not take into consideration their other clients.
And this is it. They may have other clients on your project as attachments.
And we've
experienced this. We experience it all the time. Derek Kolstad and us have the same manager. That's how we
hope that you hope that your reps, and I do believe that our reps are phenomenal and they are looking out for us at every step of the way. But here's the thing. An agent and a manager, they have an obligation to you as a client, but they also have an obligation to their agency or management company. And because their job is based on relationships, they also have an obligation to those relationships.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, like when for an agent or a manager to play super, super hardball with someone that they're actually doing another deal with on another project at the same time, and they're asking for favors on both.
Totally.
And so the nice thing about having a lawyer is they don't give a shit.
And they can play the bad guy.
Yes.
And you should use them to play the bad guy.
Yeah.
The agents and the lawyer, and you might even say like, it's nothing to do with me. Like the lawyer's just doing that, like just doing their thing.
Yeah.
They can play relationship when they need to, but the lawyer will 100% be working for you. And again, it was an interesting thing because we have the same lawyer as Derek.
We do. It's very incestuous.
It was very incestuous, but like she was going, well, so and so's and also the same law firm managed the production company.
Yeah, original. They also, her partner managed Neil Moritz, or
managed
represented Neil Moritz.
In theory, these conflicts of interest, but there wasn't, and it was great.
Yeah.
But again, ultimately, it generally with lawyers, it's great. It's great.
Here's the good thing about having three that I will say. They all have their own. Your lawyer is supposed to only have your best interests and your legal interests in mind.
Yeah.
But if you have an agent and a manager and a lawyer, they're all coming from it from different perspectives for all the reasons that we're talking about.
Yes.
And so you actually, as a client, can go, you're suggesting this, you're suggesting this, and you're suggesting this. And it gives you a bit of a kind of an ability to be maybe a little broader in your thinking of how to deal with certain situations.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to negotiating your big fee, the top line number, the lawyer is involved, but usually the agent is the one who is going to be getting you the biggest top line figure.
Right.
That's kind of their job.
Sure.
And that's
they do the kind of
they do the dance with the executive. They do the, hey, look, these guys are produced now, they deserve a raise or whatever it is. That's and the reason that is because there's different steps when you're dealing with a studio. And now this may be very different in a independent production world. We don't have a lot of experience in that. We primarily work for studios.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a studio, you have your creative division, and that is who you're making your initial deal with. You're going to them saying, do you want to buy this?
For this amount of money.
And it might be for this amount of money, or it might just be, yes, business affairs will be in touch.
Right.
That's where the second people come into play. Yeah. Now, every studio has their law division. They call them business affairs.
BA for short. You'll sometimes
BA. Business affairs and creative are in contact. Creative business affairs will say, hey, I just got a call from such and such that we're buying this script from them. How much are we buying this for? And if the creative executive has already made some sort of a big offer, which can happen and also cannot happen depending on what the deal is.
Yeah.
Then they'll go, well, there's a thing called appetite, and they'll get a sense for it. But business affairs' job is to pay you as little as possible. I mean, that is literally their job. They get bonuses based on how little they spend.
And it's your lawyer's job at this moment, to get you as high as possible.
Correct.
And ultimately, you meet in the middle.
And so basically, the dance becomes lawyers and lawyers are talking to each other. Lawyers are making arguments and they're going back and forth.
To be clear, you're not just talking about money. I mean, you are, but all the different there are lots of other things.
Everything from bonuses to who owns what rights to how long,
to travel allowances, to per diems if and when you're
That's all lawyer stuff.
All lawyer stuff.
Agents and managers do not negotiate what you're going to get on whether you're going to fly business class or first class.
There are all those things that are in a contract.
Yeah.
And you really get into the minutiae details, of going, well, if you fly to set, they're only going to give you X per day. And some of that doesn't matter. And some of it really does.
I'm one of those kind of probably rare people that read every word of these contracts.
But,
I think, your lawyer is supposed to have a strong grasp over what the industry standards are. The studio will always try and undercut those. It's your lawyer's job to bring them at least back up to industry standard and then hopefully negotiate beyond. Now,
did we say how much a lawyer charges typically?
A lawyer charges 5%.
So to be clear, if you have an agent, a manager, and a lawyer, you are paying out 25% of your gross paycheck. You need to bear that in mind when you are thinking about whether or not you want all of those people in your team.
Right.
But they all offer incredible value. So you really need to go, well, I don't really want. I mean, here's the thing. Like Ben said earlier, we went for a period of time where we didn't have an agent.
Almost 2 years, I think.
And that was fine.
Year and a half, I think we were.
Yeah, it was a period of time. And it was okay. But agents are connected to other talents. So you really get the benefit of being able to go, oh, they represent this director, they represent this.
If you're at one of the big four.
If you're one of the big four, totally.
But if you're at a smaller agency, then I mean, they then have to communicate with the bigger agencies who represent that talent.
Sure.
But you're paying here. We've had this conversation before, which is we have talked about reps and their value and kind of looking at it from the perspective of, they are essentially equity partners in your business, right? Like they get paid a percentage, a commission on the gross of what your business makes. So they are trying to make you the most money possible. That is true. But none of them are expected to do everything for you either. Yeah, it is very much like it's 25%, and it can add up to a lot of money. But that leaves 75% of getting work, your working job.
Yeah, absolutely right, for sure. I
think another thing to take into consideration is just purely on the financials, nothing to do with this, but you also do pay the guild 1.5% as your union.
Yes, you do.
So they call it the writer tax.
Completely.
And the writer tax is 26.5%.
Absolutely. Now, bear in mind, you are not going to get taxed on that money. That's a write-off. That's a write-off for you.
Yes.
So bear that in mind. Maybe at some point we'll talk about whether or not you should.
If you have a partner, you got to split it 50-50, though.
That guy. But again, you have to bear all these things in mind.
Yeah.
I tweeted a thing today, and I stand by it. Once you've then been paid, and we'll talk about that just briefly in a second as well. Once you've been paid, put 30% of it away. Just put 30% of it away, put it into a high interest savings account, and forget about it. Pretend you don't have it, because at tax season, you're going to be like, "Oh, I've got that money," and you'll probably have some extra as well. Which is great. So you go, oh, it's money I forgot about that I had. But definitely money moment there. When it comes to being paid as well, do we get paid directly and then we pay our agents doing it out, or does it go through a different process?
Generally speaking, either your agency, your manager, or your lawyer, you can choose, will accept all your payments for you and then distribute the commissions accordingly. I think our management company does it. We've had it been where our agents have done it in the past. Now, one thing that you can also take in, a lot of agencies do have legal departments, and they will technically represent you. And if you do not have a lawyer, they will use an agency lawyer and they'll assign it to your particular thing. Yeah. You won't have a personal relationship with that person. And while legally speaking, they're always supposed to be fighting for you and have your best interests at mind, there is a bit of a conflict of interest to use the agency lawyer as your lawyer. But, they're still fighting for you to get the most possible because it makes the agent the best. I mean, we've talked about, do we just use the agency lawyer? There was one point in time where we did not have a lawyer. And I don't know. Technically, I don't even think you have to pay the 5% if you use the agency lawyer. I think it's included in your 10% fee.
Yeah, probably is. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get.
Have we? We've always had a lawyer.
We've never done it, and every lawyer we've ever talked to has done it the same way. I've always had an outside attorney. Yeah. It's nice to feel like you can call someone who is completely 100% just for you.
Indeed, it is.
But it costs you money. And we've had moments in time where we've wondered, is the 10% for the agent worth it? Is the 5% for the lawyer worth it? Are we getting all, your money's worth? I think those, at the end of the day, though, become high-class problems.
Yeah, they do.
If you have the ability to pay 25% off of whatever you're making. Now, that being said, if you're a writer who is making scale, which means the WGA union minimums, and you're taking 25% off the top, and you're in a partnership and then splitting it, you're probably working a support job too. And that can get very, very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine what our salary would look like if we sold a movie at scale and then had to take everything out.
Yeah.
You know, that's not sustainable. So it does become complicated. I think that the benefits that you usually see, agents and managers, both of them, you're wanting to benefit from their relationships. They both bring that to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Agents will have hopefully the strongest sense of the pulse of the industry in terms of, because they have these massive meetings where everybody basically says like what's going on, and they're going to know from these staff meetings, like they've so many clients that there's such a more kind of understanding of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a manager, they're going to have a smaller client list. They're going to be able to give you more personalized attention. They should also have a sense of what's going on in the industry. If you're at a bigger management company, they will also have these bigger staff meetings whereby they're going to learn more as well.
Yeah.
The more information you have, the better. So combining those two only makes that stronger.
Absolutely, for sure.
And then in this day and age where packaging is essential, access to talent is important.
Very helpful.
But not, you know, like I said, like smaller agents can still be beneficial even if they can't package internally.
Sure.
It's
all about relationship. All about relationship. Yeah. You know, your agent at a slightly smaller agency may have been a bigger agent at another, or knows people. You know, it's like
or really, he just knows a lot of people. I mean, look, their job is to know people and know what's going on and be really good on the phone and get shit done. If your agent at a smaller agency is really good friends with 5 presidents of studios, it's a great agent to have.
Absolutely right.
You know, and talent wants to work, so you can get to talent in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, a broad breakdown of the difference.
I think that's very good.
And I think that, look, we're happy to answer any more questions if we didn't touch on things about agents, managers, and lawyers. I will say again, and this is just I will always kind of use the caveat of this is our experience.
It is.
And there are lots of writers who may have very different experiences, and we respect those, and we are not trying to say at all that this is the only experience that can happen.
Indeed.
On that note, I just want to make one quick statement, which is, in a previous episode, we talked about the Writers Guild and a potential strike this year. And I just want to say that any statements that we made on this podcast are our own personal opinions and do not reflect whatsoever what is really going on inside the guild. Absolutely. We don't know. We have had no meetings with guild representatives. And so, you know, in no way do I want our statements in that episode to be thought of as, a strike is definitely going to happen.
It's not definitely going to happen.
And I really hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
I really
I'm sure everyone in the guild
yes.
really hopes it doesn't happen. It's not what anyone wants.
And so you know, our hope is we certainly don't want to put out any sort of impression that we have inside knowledge, like,
because we don't. We know nothing. We know nothing.
We don't. Yes. So yeah.
Good statement, Ben. Good statement.
Thank you, Jake. So at this point, then, let's write a movie. Let's write a movie, dude.
Get rid of that shop talk. We're not doing shop talk anymore.
No, right. I got to take. Okay, so should I take off the banner and then go to like this?
The Woik. It's about the Woik.
Yeah, it's all right. Sounds good. So
All right, so we were making good progress yesterday. We jumped back into our outline. We actually had the outline up and open when we had gone through some of the opening elements of this newly constructed prologue. To touch base back on that again, we have decided that this prologue now takes place same time period, 1925 Chicago. We're going to be seeing in the past the last time the White Horseman, the Antichrist, almost came to Earth, but was stopped when Lilith character.
I gotta say, I love the White Horseman aspect of it.
Yeah, totally. I really like it too.
Totally gets me jazzed. Yeah,
absolutely. I really like it too. So let's just open that back up again and just see where we left off, because I don't think we completely finished it.
Oh no, we didn't. And this is a perfect. This is us moving forward. And I think what we need to do once we finish this this wonderful prologue is then follow these new characters through everything else that we've written so far.
Absolutely right. I think that's right. And again, some of the stuff will work. Some of the stuff will just need some tweaking. And
you know, just a reminder to anyone who may not have watched the previous episodes, because I know people kind of pop in and pop out.
Absolutely.
The reason that we're working in an outline form, this is not the screenplay by any means.
Yeah.
And the reason is exactly what's happening right now. We started to outline it and then went, oh, it could be better if. Yeah. And so rather than having written what would have been 30 pages, we're able to go back now and go, you know what, this idea is better. And that's a better use, we believe, of our time than having to delete pages that we sweated over of dialogue and action in that way. So this is why we go through the outlining process. Lots of people don't, but this is just our thing.
It's our way. It's our way of working.
Yeah. So exterior, should we read through to where we are? Let's do it.
Right. So exterior, Chicago night, establishing Super Chicago 1925, description 1920 Chicago. We drop down onto a car, interior, exterior, sedan, night. Driving the Chicago streets. Inside the car are three what look like mobsters, one man, two women. Focus on Lilith, 30s. She seems the odd person out, but only if you're paying real attention. Zod, Horseman of Death, is driving, looks in the rear view, and catches a glimpse of her face. They pull up to a Gatsby-style mansion on the lake. Outside the mansion, Zod, Lilith, Horseman of War, and Jez, Horseman of Famine, walk up the steps to the front doors. A party is in full swing. In the mansion foyer day, the gang are greeted by a reverent acolyte. He brings us to a stairwell leading down to interior mansion ceremonial chamber, a pentagram on the floor, candles, other occultists. A cult leader wearing distinct robes approaches Zod. He's clearly the leader because we've called him the cult leader.
Yeah.
I
think what we meant is Zod is clearly the leader of the demons.
Oh, got it. Yes, I see what you're saying. In the middle of the pentagram is a naked man. Oh, exciting. Writhing, not writing, but writhing in pain. On his back is a huge tattoo-looking mark. The mark of Cain. They're ready to begin. Something in Lilith's eyes feels unsure, uncertain.
So the question is, and I don't think we need to go into too much detail.
Yeah.
But somehow, I think we're going to start to see the ceremony starts. So what's this going to look like? Is it a transformation? Is it a portal opening up? I think it should be a transformation.
I think we should. I'd like to see, some kind of like bulging
demonic energy coming into this kind of.
Yeah, maybe his eyes light up.
And at that time, all of a sudden, it should be like
bang,
chop, and like the head of the guy just gets chopped right off, and it's Lilith.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, awesome. I'm down. That's great. Yeah, for sure.
Demonic energy starts to fill the man as a transformation begins.
Yeah.
Until chop.
Yeah.
Lilith cuts off the guy's head, stopping the transformation.
Can I add something pre this?
Yes.
And it's about, is there a way to get some kind of exposition through dialogue about who, what they are, and what's going on?
Yes, there is definitely a way to do that.
And again, we could just phrase it like that in this outline.
Yes. You know, it's really interesting. So I just have to sidebar. I watched the first episode last night of The Last of Us.
I was gonna watch it during my lunch break, but I've heard there's a really great way that they talk about the zombies without ever really talking about the zombies by this newsroom.
The exposition. So first of all, there is quite a lot.
Cool.
Because there has to be.
Sure.
But it's done so well. And you never feel, in my opinion, ever like you're being talked to.
Yes.
You're getting it all through character, action.
Yes.
Like even when there is a pure, like, are you sitting comfortably? Mm-hmm. There's a reason that the guy talking is talking the way that he is. And it's just done. I mean, I love Craig Mazin.
Craig Mazin, he's
so good.
He
really directed the episode.
What's that?
He directed the episode.
Good for him. Good.
I mean, fucking A.
And he's a gamer as well. You know, he's always talking about on script notes what games he's playing. He's a real hardcore gamer. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited to see what ends up happening with Borderlands, which he wrote as well, which I think is coming out. Is it this year or next year? But again, like
I remember when we were semi up for that job.
I remember too. I know.
No, I think it was just so good the way. And here's the thing: when they do the exposition, it feels like known, like the characters who are giving it to us know it already.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, there's so much that they don't say, and it's okay. And then when they do say it, they say it in a way whereby it's like, there's either really a reason that I have to tell you this right now, or you and I both have a shared knowledge, and I'm gonna, bring up or talk to you in a way where we already know this. And I'm not going to go into every single little detail, because guess what? The audience can fill in the blanks.
Totally. Absolutely right. I again, it's one of the things that we've been talking about a lot lately, about just trusting your audience. They're going to get it.
Yeah. So it's kind of what I was saying yesterday. We walk into this mansion with this weird party going on. We go downstairs. There's all these fucking occultists dressed in white robes and this pentagram on the floor. Do I need to say that this is a satanic cult?
No.
No. I get it.
Yeah.
Now, who are these three people that have just come in?
Yeah.
Maybe we want a beat of exposition to understand who these occultists think these people are.
Yeah.
Totally. Who is the guy in the center? Maybe we,
Could they, again, in this moment, as the ceremony starts, could Lilith, Zod, and Jez begin to shift into their true demonic forms?
Maybe we talked about maybe just Zod even doing the ceremony and turning into his demonic form.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
I think that if you saw Zod turn into a demon, I wouldn't need to use the word demon. I would understand what he is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. In this setting right here, I agree. And then we'll also doubly get it when we cut to 100 years later and Lilith looks exactly the same. Like,
if the occult leader brings them into the group and says to everybody, "Thank you, O horsemen, for gracing us with your presence."
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Oh, great. I mean, that's great.
Boom.
Got it. If I'm a human being who knows things,
right. And if I don't, I go, okay, I'll figure it out as I go along. Yeah. But I'm gonna get. There's so much. The imagery is going to tell you what you need to know.
It's absolutely right.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So yes, I do think exposition done elegantly about who Zod and the others are, and what the ceremony is about.
Yeah.
So then Chop, Lilith cuts off the guy's head. Now, in this moment, it's going to be shock. Zod is not expecting this.
Totally.
Jez is not expecting this. All the occultists are going to be like, they know these people are demons. They're not. What are they going to do?
Totally. Absolutely right. Yeah.
So what happens? Is there a moment of Zod going, like, do we have like a full quiet standoff where it's like, what have you done? And do we get a moment of exposition whereby through this beat she says, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I couldn't let it happen.
Yeah. I've
changed. Or something like that. But at some point it's like, then you have to die.
Yes.
Quick fight. We get fight and she escapes.
Yes.
So Chop, Zod, and everyone is in shock. Beat of dialogue going, what the fuck? Fight and escape.
Great. Cool.
And that's our prologue.
I think it's great. I really like it. And you actually get, it's actually a better prologue than the previous version, which is what you want.
Yes.
You don't want to be taking steps backwards. You want to be like, is this better? Yes, it's better. And I would argue it's better because actually we get so much more exposition.
We've just set up the tone of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely right.
This is what this movie is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we want. Now, as we continue to make headway, the title of the episode, I'm doing the Superman 4, the Quest for Peace, with each episode now. Like, I'm going to find a way to weave in the title of the episode into each episode.
Those of you who don't get the gag, it's from a Family Guy episode, which is like, he really always likes it when in a movie, they say the title of the movie. I think there is a clear and present danger. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the funny one is, my name is Superman 4, the Quest for Peace.
I love it. It still makes me laugh. But it is funny, if you watch a lot of especially 90s movies, the title will always be in a piece of time.
Yeah, right. It was a very 90s thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Portland 2023. Here's something that I found really interesting. Again, sidebarring because it's just so fresh in my mind, The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't spoiling anything for anyone. So no spoilers, but the primary show takes place in 2023, which is weird to me. It was an odd choice to go, I'm going to set this show today when clearly this is not happening today.
I suppose.
Our world. There are events, for example, that clearly, like, you basically have to go, this is an alternate version. This is a, like, in a way, without stating it whatsoever, you're in an alternate reality.
Sure. I mean, don't you have to do that whenever you go and see a Marvel movie? Or any movie?
Yeah, but you're not stating, I mean, that's a good point.
I mean, it's funny, and it's a small point. The other day I was watching, we watched it after Christmas, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special.
It's funny, yeah.
And in it, they go and kidnap Kevin Bacon and bring him to Star-Lord.
I loved it, yeah.
And I was going like, so this is in our world, but it's not in our world. And I was like, that's just everything. It's every movie you ever watch ever. It's like, what if this happened today?
Yeah. I guess because the world is like destroyed. there's a certain element of going, it's not 5 minutes into the future where you're going, oh, what if this happened tomorrow?
I hear that. It's more like going like, hey, what if this happened? Like, it feels like now, but we could be 5 years' time.
Right. Like if I watch like Avengers and the Battle of New York, I go, well, did this happen 5 days ago? No.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it could happen tomorrow. Like in theory, it doesn't take you out of going, but this isn't the history. Now, that being said, as the Avengers movies have moved forward and you have things like the Sokovia Accords and countries that don't exist, you're in, I guess in that you are in a different universe. You're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is the history of that universe. And so I guess you're right. The universe that you're in The Last of Us is the universe of The Last of Us.
Right. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Moving on.
But yeah, I hear you. I also hear
I love it. I fucking love it.
I'm really excited. It's funny. I never finished the first game. I keep
the
first game.
I finished both, and I want to replay. I want to replay the first one. They remastered it. And
I know they did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really enjoyed all the storytelling elements of it. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Let's work on our movie.
Yeah, sorry, we're writing our movie here. Portland 2023.
Okay, so
sketchy neighborhood.
Question. In this version, do we want to go back to the original version, which is we actually catch up with Lilith 100 years later? Go straight back into her and go, oh, okay, you are still here. What's going on with you? My instinct says yes, but I obviously, discuss.
Damn you, Jake Thornton.
Damn you.
You're the reason we go to Portland now.
I probably was originally, yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's also okay to change your mind.
Always. Until
it's been made. I'm not sure it should be about a princess.
You can always do reshoots. I think yes. I think we do go to Portland or to Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to be able to copy and paste those scenes. Did we keep the scenes the same and just move them around?
Well, they're going to be slightly different because
she's going to be different. Let's talk about her real quick. When we meet her now, I made a suggestion yesterday towards the very, very, very end of, do we swap the kind of age dynamic? Is Lilith more Florence Pugh? Is she the more I would like to be human? Or do we go kind of they're the same age-ish and it's just you have had the life that I've been trying to have for 100 years? I'm okay either way. It just depends on what is she doing? If she's Florence Pugh, I don't know that she owns a bookshop, but I like the owning of the bookshop. So I'm in two minds about it.
I think we keep her feeling like she's late 30s for the moment.
30s. Yeah, 30s.
Yeah, and as and when we move forward, we can have continuing conversations. But again, I think you're right. I like her having something that she does, that she has. Again, it's currently a plot element because we are going there at some point.
So do we? So she's not going to be the one with the boyfriend.
No.
We were talking about that she actually is like a guy. The guy would almost ask her out on a date right before all this shit goes down. But what I'd like to feel. So this is what I want to feel from Lilith, this version of Lilith in these scenes. If I'm seeing her ordinary world, and I'm thinking like any character that we like in a Sarah Connery way, or whatever we want to, however we want to describe it. Like, what do we need to know about her right now in this moment in time?
Well, she's still alive. Firstly,
well, yeah, but here's what I would want to. You're going to say what I would like to feel is that. For 100 years, she's been living among us. And that while she wants to date and have a family and live a normal life, does not believe it is possible. If someone were to ask her out on a date, she'd probably feel like she has to say no. Like, how on earth could she explain the fact that she has no mirrors in her apartment? Or like, how would she explain taking scalding hot baths to people?
Totally. Or that she always likes her meat charred to a crisp.
Right. So, like, there's a version, because this is what I feel like is going to be fun about her arc, is that her demonhood is her getting past what she thinks. She thinks that's her biggest obstacle, is that no matter what she does, she will always be a demon.
Sure.
Even though emotionally and inside of her, she'd like to be more. She'd like to be good.
Right.
A demon who wants to be good.
Sure.
But it's like, she doesn't think she has that option. Now, it goes back to a question that I had asked, and it's a larger question, so it may end up taking up the last 10 minutes. We may not push forward in this actual document.
Go.
And it has to do with the why Lilith cares about the White Horseman coming, and what are the stakes for her personally if she were to come now 100 years later. Because here's what I'm thinking, and I just want to make sure that we fully grasp this. She kills this guy in the prologue.
Yeah, I was going to say, what were the stakes then?
Exactly.
Why
does she care? Why does she care? Has she developed off-screen pre the movie some sort of love for humanity?
I think
it feels so big. It feels so like I don't even know how to relate to that from like a personal perspective.
And again, it's how will you feel that other than in bad exposition?
Right.
But again, can I imagine a moment where Hank is like, wherever he comes in, why are you even doing this? Why are you going against your kind? What is it? And could there be a brief story? Again, like the best exposition. I think it was Derek who was once telling us about in Unforgiven, or one of the other Clint Eastwood films. I think it's Unforgiven, and I'll butcher the line, but it's like once there was something and nobody came, and I can't remember what the exact line is. But in that moment, you were like, "Oh, I get why he's doing this." Because once something happened, and and it could be just as simple and succinct as that. It could be, again,
what is that for her?
But what is that? But what actually is it for her? Because again, it could have been, and I think it was in the early drafts, it was like a page of, well, my wife did this and da 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 da, and it became just that one line.
And that's a great way to write it. But all that meat becomes that, right? Like all that backstory is needed to get to that singular line.
Totally. So do we transpose what we've had going on with the current version of Lilith, whereby she has love
maybe
for a person,
but she is the horseman of war. That's part of who she is.
Yeah, she fell in love with a soldier.
What is the maybe like Wonder Woman with wine type thing?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Like it because ultimately the story could be, I fell in love with a man, he had a child, I saw that mankind was worth saving, that it didn't deserve this, that mankind was capable of good things, didn't deserve the shit we were doing. That's the bad version. But Are those the feelings? Is that the story?
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
This goes to the mythology. Has the White Horseman ever been here?
No.
Okay. So the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse have never been 4 to this date. The White Horseman is something that they have been attempting to bring about.
Yeah.
Forever.
Other question based on that. Were the events that we witnessed in the prologue, were they the first time that the horseman was going to appear?
Right. Maybe.
Because it may have been we were trying for centuries to get this thing to happen. It was nearly it, like millennia of work and making this vessel be ready, and I couldn't let it happen.
But then I would say, walking that train of thought, then why does it only take 100 years for Sam to come about, and why Sam?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
So unless it's some sort of a prophetic every 100 years a new
again, if it's born. I think the thing I bump with that is that every 100 years, that means that why was that the first time that the horseman was potentially going to come? Surely if it could have happened every 100 years, who saved it for the previous 900 times or whatever?
Right. I mean, I guess you would probably say that they just never found the person during those, that this is the time that they actually have been able to find them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because here's, I guess where I'm going is, why is she worried about the White Horseman coming? Like, even if she had fallen in love with a guy, but it wouldn't have worked out. Like, clearly, like, we're establishing a person in 100 years later that has no human life. Even though she would want one, it hasn't happened for her, and it probably makes her pretty fucking depressed. So, like, obviously, does she still have hope at this point? Like, and it's all related, right? Because 100 years later, when we meet her today, does she still think that somehow she can have a human life, or has she given up on that? And
I think she should have given up.
So if she's given up, then what is it that she wants?
She wants to save humanity. She can still save humanity, even though she's not going to become.
Why does she care about humanity?
And that's still the question.
It just feels so big, doesn't it?
Well, that's the question that we are answering. Like, what is still the
Why
question.
Does Lilith give a shit?
Yeah.
And I think,
here's the thing. From any human perspective, I could understand why any normal person would want to save the day, would want to say, hey, yes, let's not launch the nuclear weapons.
Sure.
99.999.
I understand why Tom Cruise tries to win in every Mission Impossible.
It doesn't need explaining, because it doesn't need explaining.
But she's a demon.
And so why really, yes, as you say, the question is why does she care about humanity? And maybe it's because as we talked in various versions in the past, she began to develop a human emotion of empathy, and I couldn't fight it.
Had she spent so much time
I think that's
on Earth
living
among us, trying to find the White Horseman, that actually by living among us, she got to know us and realized that.
I think that works. I think that really works. I have zero issue with that. It's like I just began to feel empathy. It could be that simple. I began to feel empathy.
Okay. I'm just going to say, I'm just going to put in here, Lilith does this because over time she's developed human empathy.
Yeah.
She can't help but care about what happens to the world, and knows that the White Horseman spells the end of what humankind is today.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. I mean, And maybe it just is what it is, and there's no real way around it for this story because of the dynamics of the story. Usually we would try and not go with the world is going to end. That normally when we develop a villain plot, that we like to stay away from those types of plots because they just feel so big. And it's like the bigger the partly, interestingly enough, it does go to the size of the movie.
It does.
The smaller and more intimate the villain plot, the smaller and more intimate the.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're not going to be seeing the nuclear missiles launch. We've got to get on the aircraft carrier and blah, 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 blah. Right. It is still, in one sense, intimate in terms of what's happening on screen and the locations and the cast size.
So it needs to feel like it's not an immediate thing. The moment the White Horseman shows up doesn't mean the world is going to... It's not like the nuclear bomb goes off.
Right.
It means that the war will begin.
Yes.
You know, it's like bringing Sauron back doesn't mean the end of Middle-earth.
That's an interesting comp, isn't it? Sauron's back. It doesn't mean that the next day the world's over.
Right.
It just means that he's back, and this time he means business.
This time he means business. Yeah, I mean, actually, Sauron is an interesting comp to this bad guy. It's the real threat is almost this like thing that we never actually meet.
Sure.
So if you never really know Sauron, you only get this idea of what it could be.
Again, I'll reference Mission Impossible 3, which I just love.
Yes, the MacGuffin of the rabbit's foot.
The MacGuffin of the rabbit's foot in Mission Impossible 3. You don't actually know what it is, what it's going to do, what's going to happen. You just know it's really fucking bad.
Right.
And I loved that about Mission Impossible 3 because it was just like, it doesn't matter. You know it doesn't matter. We know it doesn't matter. We're not going to go into the details of what's going to happen. Oh, the nuclear bomb's going to go off. Okay, got it. Yeah, like every other Mission Impossible movie, not superhero movie, spy movie. Got it. Don't need it. Loved it. And I think it can be similar here. It's, so what are they trying to do? They're trying to bring the fourth horseman back. What does that mean? Really bad shit. The book, I can't read the book, but I get the impression it's really bad.
Well, they're called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
For a reason.
You figure it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, totally. Fire and brimstone, cats and dogs living together. Pandemonium.
We should have... It'd be hysterical if they're sitting in a hotel room and Ghostbusters comes on the TV and it's that scene.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's funny. Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on the day that isn't the weekend, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
That's true. Yes. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because we are hopefully going to build a continuing community. I like that we talked about it as a community, and I'm really
Absolutely.
I like that we found this kind of community group of people that are I think getting something out of this. I know I am.
It's really nice.
So, all right. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you next week.
Love you.